Good evening, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying yourself so far. We have 2 more panels coming up next, and I need your entire attention now. As you might know, we at Visionaries always strive to invest into solutions that have the potential to disrupt entire industries, and GETHARLEY is one of them. GETHARLEY directly connects individuals with qualified skincare experts, such as dermatologists and also plastic surgeons, providing a personalized skincare experience for everyone. I'm more than happy to welcome CHARMAINE, the founder and CEO, on stage tonight, who's been part of the Visionaries family since we led the seed round in 2020. Fast forwarding to now, the team, CHARMAINE and her entire team, have garnered over 100,000 active users on the platform, have worked with 1,000 loyal clinicians, and have also raised more than 50 million in funding from Index Ventures, Village Global, as well as Headline and Visionaries Club. So I'm really happy to also have STEVENSON from Index Ventures on stage tonight, who's also part of GETHARLEY's board, and who will talk with CHARMAINE about secrets on how she's been scaling and building GETHARLEY. So big welcome, applause to both of them.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
I think alcohol is now being served, so I hope people have got a drink in their hands for the final few sessions. I'm so excited to have CHARMAINE here with me. I know you are a founder that doesn't typically gravitate towards the limelight or like PR very much. You raised 3 consecutive rounds before announcing anything, which I think says a lot. So thank you for taking the time to be here. I also know you don't really like getting compliments, and you're a little bit of a no bullshit kind of person. So I promise this will not be a sort of VC puff piece. The thing I will say, because it's a big deal for us, is that very rarely do we invest or lead both the Series A and the Series B in a company at Index. And I actually asked our team to run the numbers on that, because obviously we've both led the Series A and the Series B in GETHARLEY. And over the last 7.5 years, 3% of companies we've done that in. So we're excited and no pressure.
Thrilled to be part of the 3%.
So starting right at the beginning, I want to talk about kind of the formative experiences and insights you had to build GETHARLEY. And the way that I like to bucket it is, usually there's a sort of conscious, recent insight, and you have that kind of light bulb moment. And then also you have that kind of much more sort of deeper embedded, longer standing, almost subconscious moments where you realize only on reflection made you into the entrepreneur you are today. So first, tell me about the conscious light bulb moment, and then second, tell me about that subconscious experiences.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So I can't tell how the lighting's shining on my face, but I've always struggled with really terrible skin. And right around the time when I was in my late 20s, I really just wanted to know that I was future-proofing my aging process, and I was looking at the right products and treatments for my skin. And this astounding statistic, which is that 3 skincare products are launched into the market every hour, really stuck with me. I'm the sort of person who just generally wanted the right results and the right products delivered to me without me having to really think. But I felt like the skincare and healthy aging market really wasn't delivering on that. It was a lot of confusion, a lot of marketing, a lot of celebrity, branding, but not really tangible results. And so I thought, why isn't there a single source of truth or a platform where I could really digitally find what the right skincare products, treatments, practitioners would be for me? And I thought it would be really interesting for consumers if that existed. And around the time when I had that insight, I was also, by that point, about 8 years into my career in finance. I was investing mostly in healthcare and consumer businesses. I had worked on a deal rolling up dermatology clinics. And so I knew the economics of the dermatology space, but I also really internalized the painful workflows that clinicians were going through. And I thought, if I could build this platform that solved the problem for the consumer of finding the right treatments, products, practitioners on one platform, but equally also solve workflow problems for the practitioner, it would really be a winning proposition for both supply and demand. So that was the genesis of Get Harley.
Okay, nice. So that was the conscious light bulb moment. Now, on reflection, when you think about how you were kind of formed as an entrepreneur, are there pieces in your experience before that has shaped how you approach the business?
Yeah, I think, the desire to invest in my own skin probably comes from this deeper desire to constantly improve. And I think, this idea of being a better version of yourself every day. And I think that you can break down into, building more meaningful relationships with people, satisfying your intellectual curiosity, building a career. But equally, there's also something more aesthetic and superficial, such as looking and feeling the way that you want to. And I think one of the more subconscious moments actually goes back to when I was in my early teens. And my mother had this side hustle of selling clothing. So she would go to these markets and buy products wholesale and then resell these clothing retail and try to make a side income to support the family. And she would pick me up from school and then drive me to her friends' offices. And I followed her to my aunt's office. I remember distinctly that my aunt would kind of like community selling, she got like her friends, all her secretary friends on the floor to kind of congregate in the ladies' washroom. And my mom would take out all these clothes and start selling clothes to these women. And I distinctly remember, in this very kind of humble, gritty, ugly bathroom setting, a group of women putting on clothes and then coming out of the stalls and sort of looking transformed. And I think that really stuck with me, the idea that what you wear and how you look goes beyond the superficial, and it actually really, impacts the way you feel and how you take on the world. And I think that really stuck, and it gave me this sort of intangible insight when I started designing the Get Harley experience. I wanted people to unbox and try these products and feel transformed and transported.
Nice. I love that. So aside from obviously that kind of, teenage operating experience, as you said, you're a banker for 8 years. I like to think we read LinkedIn CVs for a living. We spend a lot of time trawling LinkedIn and trying to work people out from what they've done. And I remember looking at yours before we spoke and thinking, okay, Morgan Stanley, KKR, Goldman, she's definitely going to be able to crunch numbers, but can she actually roll up her sleeves and build a business? So what was that experience like going from finance to operating, and what were some of the hardest kind of 0 to 1 ground up things that you had to do?
I think when the idea struck me, I was so fixated on trying to validate whether or not the idea would work. And I wanted to do that in the most capital efficient way. So I wanted to bootstrap it. I didn't want to kind of work on an idea that wouldn't go anywhere. So what that meant was that I was a one-man band. I wireframed the Get Harley sort of platform the way I thought it should look on PowerPoint, because 8 years in finance meant that I was just incredibly good at PowerPoint. I couldn't work out Figma. I went to conferences, I talked to doctors, I was a first salesperson, I was a first CX person, I was messaging patients, I designed the box, I packed boxes, and I really tried to de-risk the idea a lot before I left my job. So, one of the favorite memories I had was that I had signed up these doctors, but I didn't really know if it was going to go anywhere. And then suddenly I get an email that's like, this doctor has made a skincare plan for that person, and the person has bought. And then I'm like, oh my God, I actually need to go find these products and box them up. And I would then, do that and then head into a cab on the way to Fleet Street, drop off the products, and then head to work. So I would say that was the level of hands-onness that I had with Get Harley. Another fun fact, I operated Get Harley out of my flat for a good year, actually. And the Get Harley first office is actually just right next door to here. It's 15A North Audley Street. And if you walk past, you'll see a sign that says, CCTV, do not steal products or whatever. Basically, at some point, we were getting quite a big volume of boxes in front of the lobby, and people would just come in and take products. And so our hacky way of trying to stop that was to put up this very non-credible sign, but it worked.
And the sign's still there?
The sign is still there.
Nice. Nice. And so I think, you talked about it there, right? A practitioner kind of reaching out to you. It feels like from the get-go, you felt this pull. And I think that's something that we were, and still continuing to be struck by, but particularly when we first started talking, 2.5, 3 years ago, that for actually a relatively early stage company, the level of product market fit was always very strong. That consistency, that predictability, and that's rare. And we often get asked, like, how do I know when I've hit product market fit?
Yeah.
How did you know, and why do you think you managed to get there so quickly?
Yeah, I think, for me, I thought when I started the business that product market fit meant that doctors would use our platform to create skincare plans for patients, and patients buying and spending a certain amount, and then them coming back and showing some kind of like retention pattern. I mean, it's a very kind of finance basic concept, I guess. But the reason why we were able to prove that out, and I think it was so consistent, is because I think by the time I started GetHarley, it was a problem that I was living with as a consumer for so long. I've always had bad skin. I've always tried to find products. And so trying to distill that dissatisfaction into a solution that was simple enough wasn't too difficult for me, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing is I had looked into the space, but what I also did early on is I would volunteer free time to go help out in clinics. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I showed up to different clinics, and then I would just hang out at the reception, and then I would like build a relationship, and then I'd be like, do you need me to help you in the room? I'll just come in, and I would observe these workflows, and I was just like part of the furniture. But I think that level of understanding of the consumer problem, and then doubling that with really trying to understand how the practitioner feels in their day-to-day, and then creating a very try not to test too many things, 2 to 3 features, make it super simple, and put it out there and see. And I think that just kind of worked for us.
Yeah. No, and the reason why I love that kind of people-first approach in terms of understanding, what the value proposition is to each of your stakeholders is I feel like quite typically we'll see early-stage teams and early-stage businesses that have a little bit of the mentality of like, we will build it and they will come, right? And it means that they build kind of within a bubble or within a sort of garden shed, and you don't get those insights and empathy for the people that you're building for. So I think that's really striking. The other thing, I mean, we talk about this a lot. My view is that sales is your superpower. I know you don't like me saying that because sales still feels kind of like a dirty word or salesy, which is something different. I'm biased because my first job was sales, doing cold walk-ins for Deliveroo. But in general, I think a lot of people are selling all the time. I know if a venture capitalist tells you that they're not selling to you, then they're just bad salespeople because they're lying. But anyway, I think you're particularly good and particularly sophisticated at building sales playbooks within your business and making it so much part of the culture from day one. Like, how have you done that, and what are some of the learnings that you've had from that?
How have I done it? I think it's really going back to basics, trying to understand the person you're trying to solve a problem for, and then trying to work out, based on how they're feeling and based on their day, how do you then try to translate that into a funnel? Mm-hmm. And then trying to, it's basically a very distinct understanding of how they feel in their day, and then trying to work out, okay, given how they're feeling, what does the funnel look like? And then trying to measure that, looking at the drop-offs, and then going in a very methodical way, trying to come up with, okay, the reason why this funnel is dropping here is because they feel this way, and therefore what are the 1 or 2 things we could do to counteract that feeling? And then just testing in a very methodical way.
Yeah, I think it's the combination of like not trying to do everything at once, like you ruthlessly sequence, and in so many sessions we've had, you're like, I'm going to just look at this bit of the funnel. Everything else can be burning, but I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to understand what levers work. That's felt very intuitive. I'm sure other pieces of being a founder and building a business have felt less intuitive. What's been the hardest thing for you to learn to be good at?
So I am like a massive introvert. But GetHarley actually is powered by a community of like incredible practitioners. So it's actually a very extroverted role. So I think the less intuitive part for me is actually, pushing against the desire to just be in my spreadsheet and getting out there and talking to people and sharing our story.
Okay, nice. Okay, final question. Okay, so if you could kind of, talk to the you 4 years ago next door, packing boxes and then ferociously guarding them before they get stolen, what's the one thing you would have done differently?
In the early days, you don't have very much data points. You don't have very much benchmarking. And because I'm such a data-centric person, I kind of almost fought against listening to my intuition because I didn't want my biases to kind of tip me one way or the other. But I think, especially when it comes to hiring and culture fit and people assessment, sometimes listening to your gut isn't all that bad. And I think, some of the hires that I've made that were not quite right, oftentimes the gut was right. So I probably just tell myself to lean into that a little bit more, but also constantly be conscious that you're not, being biased or unthoughtful about it.
Yeah, being intentional about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Charmaine, thank you so much for spending time with me here today. If anyone hasn't tried GetHarley as a product, you must. And thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.